Hey,
Hello, we are
what's
live.
happening? Live. What is happening?
Live. I had no voice last week, so we I was gonna try to squeeze it in, but my voice was still not doing great, and I had to do some voiceovers. So I just said, "We're taking a week off. Gosh darn it, for my spiritual health." Yeah, my
It's
voice
all,
still isn't
it's all good.
exactly there, but I'm
No, it sounds much
excited.
better. Yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds much better than it did. So we definitely got a lot to catch up on, which is cool.
yeah. How's your life going?
Life is going wonderfully. Definitely full of a lot of intention and energy exchange, which is everything we've been talking about. It's really been swirling around in my mind, the whole idea of it and being aware of it and all of that stuff, which is why I kind of came up with that for the topic. But yeah, things are going really great.
I certainly have some of that going on myself over here. I was sort of surprised by a lady, and I'm very smitten. and
Nice.
yeah, it's interesting to talk about just in terms of I've been doing a lot of that you know uh, putting myself out there, and then kind of trying to decide like I don't know, like, is this right? I don't think this is right. And then but as I've seen with this situation with Julie, who I'm going out with now, is it was just when it's right, it's right.
Yeah.
And that really, I think that's really what it showed me most was just sort of when it's right, it's right. And there was just it just sort of came together, and I was like,
You're in a moment, man. You're in a moment, and you're going with that
right,
moment, and it's great. Oh, I almost forgot. Check this out.
yeah.
Woohoo!
Ooh, so
Look at
pretty.
that. Yeah,
Are
I
you
got
a
these.
Sith Lord?
No, I got these cool lights that for shooting with, and they got this little remote control, and
Ooh.
I could change the colors, and then they have all these funky modes. Like, hold on, let me get through the
Anybody
modes.
want to sign
Oh,
some?
look at that! You're sitting at his desk. Is that sitting at the desk? That's great. So yeah, so it does some cool like things like that rainbow thing. It does it.
Oh,
So
look at this.
yeah,
Now
I
you
can't.
look like one of those deep water squids.
So yeah, so I just brought it to give me a little bit of mood, and then I'm gonna shoot with those things.
Well,
Uh,
that's
so I'm
awesome.
excited. But I did want to what I really wanted to catch up with, and what I wanted to know, and I'm imagining your voice kind of threw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. But how is the tarot reading going? How is how's that all going?
Well, it did throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into my first official day over at Cosmic Vibes in Redondo. But I ended up doing a bunch of readings anyway, and
Mhm.
I did actually do a few readings while I was away, and it's been great. I was worried about a bunch of things that have kind of quickly come up and not really been that much of a bother for me. I've I've had a couple of times now when the sort of I of course this happens. You do a reading and sometimes you're telling people things they don't want to hear. Yo, what up, Barry? And what do you
You were
do
talking about
when
that last week. Yeah, you were talking
yeah,
about that last week.
what do you do when they're like, "No?"
Yeah, right.
And, what I've done was just go, "All right," like, wherever I see, they're, like, hung up, I go and I get more cards from my other deck, and, like, I always do a little reading from my angel card deck before I start this, thing here, which is that.
Mhm,
But, I've got this Akashic Tarot deck, um,
mhm.
and, I usually use an angel card deck, and then I get tarot cards to add meaning to the thing. And damned if my tarot cards don't come out and say the same thing that I said. Um, and and it's been pretty funny because it's like it's really hard for them to sort of run from it when it comes up that second time.
Yeah,
And that second time keeps like pushing down all the curtains for people. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so much of it too. I mean, to be a good card reader, I don't know, our guest can tell us a lot. It's a lot of getting out of the way, not being in involved, because
Right.
these cards are laid out in sort of the simple patternings of the universal law, that we talk about, polarity and all these sort of simple concepts. In the angel card decks, they're less
Mhm.
um, broken down the way they are in a tarot deck, but they're still encompassing basic concepts within the collective that we're all experiencing and going through in various ways. And
Mhm.
with the cards being
Mhm.
right side up or upside down, essentially you've got the polarity of either one. Oh, this is good, or this is a good version of this, a bad version of this, good version
Mhm.
of this, bad version of this. And that is the simple, you know, thing that you're reading. But then
Mhm.
beyond that, I'm an intuitive, I'm a spiritual conduit, which just really means that I'm patterning, and I'm really open to sort of the connection on that level of seeing the pattern that is important for the moment,
Mhm.
which helps me
Mhm.
to write things, as you're trying to put together the feeling or the message in a song or whatever,
Mhm.
but also helps to sort of direct me where to speak from, and
Mhm. Mhm.
and what to say. So once the reading gets going, I I don't really think that much about it, and but many things begin to sort of come to me, and so often, like halfway through the reading, I start to see the person going. "Mm." But like the last reading I did, and this is funny, and something I had to learn, because she was, she's spiritual, and that's why she clicked, to me, because she was somebody who's known and followed me for a long time, and she was like, yeah, I would trust Jesse's, Jesse's reading or whatever.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
and she when we finished, she went, because I said, like, like, is how do you feel or whatever, and she said, you just told me everything that I already knew, and I didn't exactly want to hear. And
I was coming to you so to hopefully you would tell me something different.
yeah, well, exactly. And I said, "Man, isn't that the thing? Isn't that the thing? You want to hear something different, but so often we
Yeah.
do. We know exactly
Yeah.
what it is." And I'm not gonna, I don't try to, like,
No, I love
I
the
don't
way
try to
you
make
say it.
anything up, for anybody. I just want to be able to connect them with the messaging, because I really
Right.
do believe in the simple system, the
Right.
way it works. I treat my decks with a lot of respect in terms of, my shuffling and whatnot. Every time I touch them or go near them, I consider myself, sort of in the path of spirit, and I let them use my hands and put together the cards
Right.
however they're supposed to, because the next time I go to reach for them, that's, it's almost pre-programmed to be giving me the next person who they knew I was going to read.
Oh,
So
interesting.
so when you're thinking about, like, the cards, for me, I let them to really be the infinite, because that's the pathway to it. And
Mhm.
I learned how to do this.
I love watching you learn how to do this, and, I'm gonna interject for a second. You're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say something.
yeah.
Nope, I'm not gonna
No, no, no.
interject. You learned how to do this. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
I was just going to say, I learned how to do this literally from this book here. This
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
how I learned. This was in
No,
my
but I
my
think something came from inside you too, as you picked this up,
I mean,
because
I've been doing it for like 20
it
years.
was more than that. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But I mean, this was literally the instructions for working with the healing with the angel
Okay,
card.
let's hear
1, relax and center yourself.
it.
2, take the deck of cards in your hand. 3, connect with your angels. 4, ask your question. 5, lay out the cards.
Nice.
6, interpreting the cards. 7, look at the cards' context. 8, look at the cards' positions. 9, notice any jumping cards.
Right.
And giving an angel card reading to another person, and the past, present, future spreads, different kinds of spreads. And granted, I kind of do tend to do, I do intuitive spreads.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be drawn to do a spread a certain way. I won't know why. But I generally do them kind of consistent, and it all came straight from this book. I mean,
It's great. No, listen, like I said, I watched it happen. It's amazing. So I just want this is what I wanted to interject. We're getting a lot of comments and stuff, and
sure.
I'm trying not to. I just want to explain to everybody watching how this works, as well as kind of bring on our guest, because he's kind of sitting in the wings waiting. Um, but
Good.
I'm here at a kind of dashboard. I think, Jesse, you might be able to find a little button there that says comments that does allow you to see them as they're coming in. But as of now, Jesse doesn't see the comments that you guys are saying until I pop them up on screen. Like Maureen giving us the thumbs up over here, and then he sees them, but then it usually interrupts his screen.
Wait a second. Okay, wait. I think I can see
So, but even if you can see them, I just want people to understand it's a little distracting when you're doing a live broadcast and you're doing a conversation.
I
you
tend
can't really
not to
watch
look
it.
at
So
these things as I'm doing. I tend to like look at them sporadically. I apologize.
yeah.
It's hard for my brain because it really does kind of break up.
I've been watching a lot of these, and you can't really, I think usually they have somebody who's like on the side doing it, but it's giving me an idea because you're getting a lot of questions about, hey, is Jesse doing card readings? And we've got, not only do we have you here, but we have our guest who is also an amazing shaman of tarot.
Yeah, that's right, Courtney.
So I want to bring him on. It's very threatening. No, he's wonderful. But I feel like we may be onto something. People might be really into having you read their tarot for them, Jesse. I think people are digging the idea. Your energy is coming through like, ooh, I want that guy to read my cards.
Well, I really appreciate that. It was really crazy. Like one of my first readings was an ex-girlfriend's sister, which I just felt very just a lot of respect for that. That they had dealt with me, regularly, whatever. And they were like, yeah, I trust Jesse. So it really is such a nice, a kindness, an honor and respect. I made a little tarot. If you guys want to follow this, I'm not like making it a big deal connection to me. I just want it to be a independent thing for my tarot reading. But I picked a name for myself as a tarot reader, which is Bennu Bethesda. Bennu Bethesda, and Bennu is another word for the phoenix. And of course, the phoenix is my totem. So Bennu and Bethesda is it's the space of mercy, space of grace. It's tied to the water of Bethesda, which was a place people went to heal. And and for me, Bethesda, I just like the idea that people come to me and that I have mercy and I have grace for the journey, and that gives me the humility perhaps to be able to get out of the way and do some good readings for them. So so I have, it's BENNU Bethesda, BETHESDA, and I'm on Instagram if you want to add my
sweet,
my
nice.
But I made my first post today, and it was it was funny because like my spirits took control of my hand as I'm doing the thing, because I'm thinking, I got to post something about this thing. I'm like, all right, I'm like, if the tarot works, then this should work too. I'm like, I'll stop when they say stop, and maybe I'll be near the right picture. They bring me all the way back to the very beginning of my photo things, and I find the very first tarot reading the first one of real significance, other than, because I picked up this deck and I read the book and I just started doing them. And at first I did them for everybody in the house. And then I ran out of people in the house and I just started doing it for people who were outside of the house. So it was my siblings. And
hey, you come here.
Yeah. And I did this reading for Cody, and I don't even remember the reading really. I got to look at the cards, but I just remember being really struck by it and feeling like I was supposed to reach out to him and share it with him. So I shared it with him, and he had it as his wallpaper on his phone. And I think for like 2 years.
That's so cool.
I couldn't believe it. I was like hanging out with him. I looked over his shoulder and I was like, is that the reading I did?
You know what? And I'm gonna, that's amazing, dude. And I'm gonna actually use that as the what do they call that? The shit, my vocabulary words are flying out. The segue, that's it. The segue, that thing that you ride. I'm going to use that as the segue to bring on our guest and our topic, which is energy exchange, because I feel like what you just talked about has a lot of energy to it. The fact that he had that as his phone and you picked it and you didn't know that. But I'm going to bring on our guest before I delay any more. We've had him on the show before. He's an amazing artist, sacred shaman. I can't say enough words about him. We have been talking and exchanging energy and exchanging intention, and it's just been going great. I'm going to bring him on right now. He's Brian Blar.
Hey! Hey,
Hey, what's up? What's
brother.
up? What's up? What's up?
Absolutely brilliant, man. How are you doing? Your brilliance?
I'm really excellent. It's been an amazing few weeks. It really
Oh yeah.
has.
What's going on? What's new?
I'm busting out the graphic novel project. I've got the second one pretty much finished. I started shooting and loaded up some of my first shots for the third installment, the Extra Chicks. It's these three little mini chickens. They're screaming chickens, and the four sisters are like quadruplets, and each one of them is a separate element, and they use their exorcists. So they go about the universe exorcising evil across the land. It's really fun. I've been having a blast with that, and something I wanted to share with you.
Can I just real quick?
Yeah,
I want to promote your book because I read his book. It's a few weeks ago when we first had you on the show, and his book is awesome. The compliment and tragedy of it is like me reading it was very frustrating because I was just trying to read it so that I could interview him. But every panel of this book is just a beautiful thing to behold.
Thank you so much.
Anybody who read my Blacklight District and enjoyed any of that, for the visuals, I think would really be interested in this. It's super, super cool. Where can people go to find that specifically, Brian? And
I want to put it up on the screen.
The book is not for sale just yet. I've got it loaded up, going to Kindle. I'd sent it out to a bunch of literary agents. That just happened this week, and I'm kind of waiting to hear back from them before it starts going up. But I'm also not just yet, but it'll be ready soon, and there's one happening every month, so it'll be a 12-volume series. Actually, I'm going to do a baker's dozen. I'm going to do 13 for the year. Yeah. I have a website called Wizard of Odd, and that's wizard with a Y. .com, and the decks and the cards and light painting and a really nice little graphic novel section. Yes, right there. Thank you very much. There's a great little section that has about 10, 12 pages out of the book if people want to go scope it out and check it out, and it'll be available for sale there very soon too. I'll let you.
Well, awesome. Check out his website, and then and what were you going to say, Brian? Beyond that, I just wanted to take a second. And
you were talking, and Michael and I really kind of connected on the tarot deck, but I designed a second deck that's an angel oracle deck, and it's based off of 72 angels of the Shamha-Meforish, and it was probably one of the most profound experiences of my life to make that deck, because I don't do this really often, but I did automatic writing for each of the angels, and 72 nights in a row. I didn't miss a night.
Wow.
And that going into that and wearing their energy, you talk about energy exchange. Yeah. And I rarely ever open myself. I like to communicate with different entities. But
can you explain to our audience what automatic writing is?
Automatic writing is where you go into a very deep trance state and your personality kind of moves to the side. It's not like you don't know what's going on, but you get your intellect and your persona out of the way and allow another energy to express itself through you. So I had a pen and a paper. I channeled the angel really hard, and once there was just I get this kind of rush up my spine. It's like, oh, there it is, and I just started writing. And some of them I knew what was being said as it happened. There were several of them that I still don't have the exact memory of physically writing it myself. And wow. Coming out of that and reading those things, those are the readings I put in that big ass manual I sent to you, Michael.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
amazing.
and it's
going through that thing.
It's kind of a crazy thing because I was so connected to it. Those readings were like all elements I needed to understand. And in that system, there's a birthday angel that you connect to. So I had him there through the whole time with each one of them, kind of like supervising, and it was profound beyond belief. And I have begun using, you were talking about using your angel deck and your tarot deck. I use the angel deck and my tarot deck. They're like an integral part of my readings now. The angel deck, I wind up getting these, like the first paragraph of the reading is like this perfect description of exactly where I am at that moment, emotionally and mentally. And then the second part of that reading is, now, if you want this to continue, if it's good and you want this to continue doing this stuff, and it gives you really specific like information on what to do. And I keep getting floored when I like grab those things. It's like you would think that after this amount of time, which has been years now, that I would be like running out, that they wouldn't seem appropriate anymore. But they're like it'll be the first sentence, like we'll be addressing exactly the issue I'm talking about.
Right.
Which is crazy. So that takes care of that kind of scenario. And my tarot deck gives me so much information, like specific facts and like really detailed stuff. And the layout I use is an elemental reading with 4 stacks: fire, water, air, and earth. And there's like a flow. Like the first thing is the fire. So that's the energy surrounding the situation. So it flows through there into the emotions surrounding the situation, the plans and mental thoughts in the air column being thought of. And if all of those things are left unchecked, then the earth column is the likely manifestation of those. So through that reading, I get all this crazy information. And you were talking about using reversals. I did that for a long time, but I've since stopped doing the reversals and use elemental dignities. Like
what
if
are
you get
elemental dignities?
Fire and air are the 2 active elements, and they sort of complement each other. Water and earth are the 2 passive elements, and they complement each other. Fire and water are opposites and wind up being ill-dignified, is the way I've learned to refer to that. So they dilute each other, whether it's good or bad. They dilute each other.
Wow.
So if you've got a 10 of cups in the fire column, it's still really good, but it's not full 10 of cups, and it just gives it. And I've also added the first card in the column is the immediate past. The middle column is where you're at right now, and then the last column is our card is the immediate future. So you've got this like vertical or horizontal thing at the end of that, where you get this whole list of likely outcomes of those specific time frames. So there's just such a wealth of information that you get from the tarot, and they really are like doors. You open the door, the basic meaning, but then when especially if you're able to approach your readings with an emotional neutrality, you're able to then open up, and it's like the card is just the door. The meaning that you've learned is kind of like the key to the door. The door opens up, and then you get the real information.
Yeah. Well, my richness in understanding, and when I say understanding, I mean, that sort of visceral, the aha understanding really comes from my connection with spiritual law, which is where this whole, class came from. And the simplicity of polarity really allows people and situations to be boiled down to simple EQ boards.
Exactly.
Where are you within the balance? Are you above the balance? Or are you below the balance? Are you close to the balance? Or are you above but close? Or are you below but close?
Right.
And there's really only so many positions that everybody can be in. And, so for me, when I started working with the cards, it didn't come from the same world that a lot of people come from, which is like horoscopes and astrology and, having a little bit more foundational knowledge. I was just dealing with the concepts as I was studying universal law. So much of my reading really comes from just a basic understanding.
Well, approaching it from that, you could use anything to divine. It doesn't matter. That's just the tool that you happen to pick up there. And that's really important to know too. It's not the cards in and of themselves that have power. It's the focus that you bring to it, the neutrality that you bring to it, and the energy that you put into the cards.
Well, exactly that. Like I said in the beginning, I really do believe that it's something to be respected. Every time you touch the cards, you're touching the infinite. This is
it's sacred.
Vessel. Yeah, this is the sacred vessel to the divine information. And if you believe that and recognize that, I wanted to say this about what Brian was saying earlier. This is the difference of what he's talking about, channeling in this fashion. Writing these words. This is the difference between questioning and doubting and thinking and wondering and moving all that aside and allowing without doubt, without thought.
Exactly.
A lot of times people would report they took an edible or they smoked weed one time and they were completely overwhelmed by the experience, didn't like it, will never do it again. So much of why this is occurring is that some of the parameters of their reality were beginning to change and they didn't like it and they resisted it.
Right.
So if you're talking, if you're listening at home and you're going, because when I see this, I'm like, I want to get there. I still, because I'm such an atheist, Asperger's, ADD sufferer at heart, my brain is just wants to question everything. It is very difficult for me to get on a chain. Well, or at least this is blockages that I'm saying at the moment, but it has been largely difficult for me to channel like a writing thing. At the same time, songs come out of me just like he is speaking about, with no writing. And sometimes I haven't recorded it and I'm so upset because I don't remember.
Oh, that's a shame.
It was amazing. And I was like, holy crap, I can't freaking remember that. What? And I didn't hit record on anything. And it is a thing. And it's something that I've experienced myself. And it's something that you can do. And you do my guides when I'm meditating and talking, they kind of yell at me a lot because I get in the way, because they say something and then I'm like, did you just say this? And they go, yes, we said this. If you didn't ask us that, we would have told you something else. And I'm like, oh crap.
I love watching Jesse talk to his guides, by the way.
Yeah.
If you're ever hanging out with him, you'll probably get to see it.
Well, it's very back and forth.
I love it. No, it's great.
I don't trust myself. So I'm always sort of like,
it's genuine, it's the real deal. It's great.
Get your brain out of the way, man.
So this is
tell that thing to shut up, bud.
Yeah, levels of spiritual crazy that we have going on here. Brian, you are next level. Total respect.
You are next level. It's so wonderful. So, just I guess kind of trying to go back to the conversation, even though this is, I love the fact that we start with an idea and we just go all over the place. It's so wonderful, the conversation that we're having. But that's actually part of why I had the idea of energy exchange and what I've been experiencing. And Jesse, I don't know if you got it. I don't know if anybody out there knows anything about this Clubhouse app. But I sent you an invitation for Clubhouse, and Clubhouse it's very interesting and it has a lot. It's really significant. So
I think my friend invited me to the Clubhouse because I think my friend Benjamin Jackendorf, who's a really great writer, producer friend of mine, I think he does a daily class. No, not a class.
So basically what it is, it's basically just rooms of audio chat. And you can go in there and there's moderators. So some people are muted. You can't all just speak at once, but it's just conversation. There's no other distraction to it. So I feel like the conversations that I've been, and Brian, I was speaking to you about this earlier this week. The conversations that I've been being led to and have been being led to me have been phenomenal. A lot of them about visionary art and psychedelics and um, spirituality and so many things that are just synchronistic with my own life. Like it'll pop up and I'll be like, oh, I'm going to listen to that, and I jump in the room and they're talking about intention and energy exchange and shit that I was just thinking about. And I'm just like, wow. And it's really, really engaging. And again, so the energy exchange that I wanted to bring up was just in the fact that I feel like not us here and probably not our audience, which is great, because there is a level of spirituality to it. But before that spirituality, I don't think people were aware of even what that was. And when I say energy exchange and intention, I mean waking up in a bad mood and just being like, it's a bad day, and going with it, and just not realizing the control that you have over that, the energy that it puts out to other people and how that comes back to you, and what it all means, because it really is so freaking simple. And again, it's like we don't need to have these conversations because we all live in those philosophies. I love having the deeper conversations where it all goes. But the simple thing, the whole idea of energy exchange, and the reason I want to talk about it, and I think it's important to talk about it, is just to kind of help people who struggle with it. I mean, and both of us have talked about, I've talked about with you, Brian, and you, Jesse, how being spiritual, you see people struggle with things that are so simple.
I have something to say about this.
Yes, say it.
So, I didn't know, if I had done a good reading for the lady who owned Cosmic Vibes or not, because afterwards I didn't hear from her for a minute. But now I've gotten the feeling that she's just been kind of dealing with some stuff. She's a new business owner and she's got a lot on her plate, and that I did. And she really lit up a little bit into the reading, because basically my guide started telling me that she was feeling confounded, that she was doing the right things to try to protect her energy from her clients, and yet somehow she was still feeling like she wasn't exactly protecting her energy and she was getting slimed. And I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's like, somebody comes when you're really empathetic, or you're really well, there's a lot of different ways to be, sort of somebody who picks up on people's energy. A lot of people become Reiki masters or whatever else. My brother, I mean, I realize myself too, like I will literally feel people's pain in my body. And I didn't used to know the difference, like because I used to have a lot of pain in my body all the time. So it was difficult for me to tell. At a certain point, I went, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. But it took a while to develop this sort of sensitivity to these situations. And I, have been guarding my aura by putting up, sort of invisible fields, because it's all in your mind. So, if your mind is thinking, I am guarding myself in some sort of way, that does go a very long way. And I believe that Jennifer at Cosmic Vibes was probably doing the exact same thing for herself. But what I was seeing from the energy was that a lot of us, especially us empathetic people, just sweet people in general, we all have a tendency to match people's physical energy, how they're sitting. We'll match it if we want to get to their level or whatever it is. The sweetest among us will just be just like us, right alongside us. And when you're somebody who is very empathetic and dealing with energy, you actually end up opening yourself up in all the same ways to what they are holding on to, because you're embodying the same physical structure that they're embodying, and it becomes much easier for you to pick up this negative energy from them.
The frequency.
So recently, it came to my attention that it's important for us, people who work with energy and are sensitive to it, to try to remember their personal posture and their body language of power, the things that make them feel like they are okay in a
Mhm.
situation with other people. If you can embody the place of, yes, it's okay, you know, and my heart is out and I'm strong, and not a sunk in, you know, sickly, hurt, damaged something that you're picking up from somebody around you, you can guard yourself through your own just sort of posture. And really, it's just conscious
Intention.
behavior, conscious
Yeah.
intention to, you know, to recognize that, you know, you should not be, you know, turning into a flan or something when somebody who's suffering or has some pain comes by you. You don't want to shrivel up like they do. You got to
Mhm.
hold your energy. Anything to add, Brian? I know you deal with this all the time.
He's absorbing
Well,
it. Nice.
this is a really critical part of the first stage of the learning path that I've been on for the last 12 years. And, you know, we talked about last time we were on about accessing your own internal energy and how to get control of moving that around and using that. And that's the first step to doing projective work. And one of the first steps to that is learning how to take your aura and ground your aura like really good, clean all the gook out of it. Because dude, we're out in the soup. You know, it's everywhere. And as you come close to people, you know, you naturally can pick stuff up. So the first step is like learning how to really ground yourself. It's kind of a specific little set of things to do, and it really does just wash that clean, just like you take a shower every day. You clean your light body as well. You know, and then the second part of that is, first of all, like a really badass shield. But the thing about like doing a total shield is like you're blocking out information that you want to come in. So over the years, as I've studied, I've gotten a lot better at like reaching out and grabbing a specific energy frequency. Everything in the world, in the universe, has a specific frequency that it vibrates to. And once you have that signature, you can use that energy to make a specific filter that lives in that shield. Instead of blocking out everything, you can be kind of selective on what comes in and out.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry, what Brian's saying, I just want to
yeah.
affirm, you know, it really, you can be that detailed. And what we're doing, you know, when people used to, you know, I worked at a spiritual shop on Long Island for a little bit because I really wanted to study the stones. And you know, for me, it was very overwhelming. Every time I went into a shop, there was so many stones around, and I could feel energy from a lot of them, but like it was too much. So like for me, I got to work with them one at a time for a little while. But you know, people would always come in and ask about sage, and it was a question I would answer all the time, like, how do I sage, or how should I sage, or should I do this, or should I do that? And I would always say the same thing to everybody: do what you feel. You know, if you feel like you got it, then you got it. If you feel like, I don't know, I
Well,
want to get a little more, you got to do a little more, because so much of the battle is understanding that you are protecting the sanctity of your lair more than anybody. It's your universe you're creating. So the more you believe and feel good about what you're doing, the more it's really doing good. If there's a physical thing that's going to help, the sage is legitimately a good thing. However, you believing and knowing that it is makes it that much more powerful. Yes, please.
well, I would disagree with that just slightly, in that the
Sure.
thing that makes that work is the energy with your intent in it. Unless you take time to really fill that thing up with some energy and the intent for it to clean, it's just going to be a sweet smelling herb.
Well, that's
You
what I
know?
mean. That's what I mean, Brian. I mean, it's about you believing that that's what you're doing. You know, your intention being, I'm cleaning the house. You know, so that, and feeling good about it. If you leave before you feel like you feel good about it, well, then you're not really exactly going to feel like you set out the intention that you went to go put into the thing in the first place. So you got to do it to the point that it feels good, and you can get detailed in your information and how you're thinking about something. And you know, I am closed to the energy of people, but I am open to the information. You know, there are ways to program yourself in fashion so that you know what you're
Exactly.
talking about, and your body, your field will respond accordingly based on what you believe and think. It's as simple as that.
Yep. I love it. You guys are so good. So actually it's funny because you said it actually, Jesse, you said something about other people's energy being slimed, you said.
Yes.
And there's a couple of things. I have a bad habit, and it's interesting because this is kind of social media based what we're doing, but I have a bad social media habit, and that is that I waste my time on social media when I shouldn't be. And some of the things that I come across, and maybe it's I'm purposefully polarizing my energy, but some of the things I come across that really make me feel like I've been slimed. Like if I come across a video of a person who has been pulled over by the police and will only roll down their window a little bit and is like, oh, I only have to legally do this. And I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying the energy that is generated there, I want nothing to do with that energy. And again, I'm not saying the cops are wrong or the guy's wrong with he wants to fight for his rights.
Confrontation's yucky.
Yeah, exactly. And this is worse. It's intentional confrontation.
Right.
It's
and not yours.
And not mine. Right. It's so horrible. And then the other thing that made me feel that way, I was realizing it and I made a comment on it, and I realized that I put myself into it by making the comment, was these Maury clips that kept popping up in my stream. Finally, I said, unfollow this shit. And I was just like, and here's what I said. Here's what I said, because I was watching it and I'm like, I was like, I feel like I don't know Maury, right? But you feel like he would be like a dad or like a good guy, you know? And I'm just like, Maury, how can you rationalize like glamorizing this energy that's going on? Like, why are you even involved in this?
Money.
Yeah. And people commented, they're like, well, you're watching, aren't you? Ha ha ha. And I was just like, unfollow.
I think
like, I was like, you're right, I was watching, my bad, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I think some of these people are making a good living being bastards to each other.
Oh my god, it's such horrible energy, and people eat it up, man, because I guess it makes them feel something that
it's sensational, you know. It's sensational. And people love drama. You know, people love drama.
Not me.
Me either. My
me.
own drama is more than I can deal with. Exactly. Oh man, it's like
no
I don't
drama,
need to look for any extra.
For the longest time, and I guess still occasionally, like, so because I used to be a part of the conversation. Now I try to add Jesse things to the conversation. But in a certain fashion, I am still part of the conversation, in that if I go through my feed and I see that any of my freaking 5,000 friends have posted one of those baiting memes, I give them shit about it and I tell them to take it down.
Yeah.
Like, go find a freaking version of this meme that isn't being a dick.
But they're triggering you. They've got you triggered.
They totally triggered me. They've got me. I'm like, stop it.
It's you know what? It's difficult. Listen,
I don't want to see this nonsense.
As much love as the three of us embody, we're only human, right?
That's what I like to say sometimes. When I've
actually, not as awesome. We're only human. We're more than human, but. But we still have that human part that weighs us down.
We're Rob Zombie. Yeah, more human than human.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's funny if we'll talk in because we can make it turn into a little bit of a lighter conversation. Yo, what up, Johnny? Love you, brother.
Oh, look, yeah, we've been having some people saying some stuff.
So like, you know, I've come to understand that, you know, if you're an old soul who's been on this planet for a long time, you have a lot of connections on the planet. You know, there's a lot of people who you sort of feel a natural, you know, kind of pull to in one way or another. Is it the romantic pull of your life, the love of your life kind of thing? You know, I've come to see no. And, you know, I was often really kind of confused. Sometimes I feel really strong, you know, kind of not emotions, but like really strong connections to
Energy.
people. Yeah, and I was just sort of like, well, I like this person, okay, like, and I was dating or whatever, and open to talking to a lot of people. And honestly, I was really trying to learn about myself. I hadn't really dated when I was younger, so it was an opportunity for me to figure out what I liked, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking to different people, and along the way, I inadvertently broke a heart or two, just in somebody liked me, and I didn't like them
No.
as much back.
Right. Right.
And I mean, it was devastating to me, because like, and I remember breaking up with a girl a little while ago, and it viscerally like killed me. And
I remember.
5 seconds in, I was just sort of like, oh my goodness, like this is why I took 20 years to break up with Patty. Like I immediately regret this. Like, and I know that this is the right thing to do, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm like, I immediately regret this. It was so hard for me to experience. I would experience their heartbreak with them as an empathetic person. Like, and our relationship was 3 months, like, but I knew that it was mounting for them and it wasn't mounting for me. And in ending, but these are the things that I had to learn as a human being, operating in the world. And, when I finally met up with Julie, I had kind of ended, various, like, I got rid of my stupid Hinge account or whatever that I had for a short period of time when I was in Lake Tahoe, because I didn't know anybody up there. And I was just like, the universe is gonna freaking sort this out, because I wasn't really enjoying some of my interactions, especially towards like the end. And I was just like, screw this. Like, if I'm meant to find somebody, close, to be a friend or whatever, it's gonna happen. And within like lickety split, Julie came out of the woodwork, which was just through a little Facebook post that I made, where I said, hey, I'm out in Lake Redondo, in Redondo Beach, and I don't really know anybody out here.
Right.
And I had 2 people reach out to me from that post. My friend Giancarlo, who's a musician, and he and I are going to be working on some music stuff, and Julie. And unlike so many of these other situations where, maybe there was some energy there, but the other people didn't trust themselves, and like things, didn't really go anywhere, or took a really long time to go anywhere. With Julie, it was just sort of like click, click, click. And, she came to hang out, and we clicked. And like everything that I was hoping and wondering about whether or not I had clicked with somebody, like,
right.
I clicked with this person.
Right.
Like I didn't click with those people. And I think so often, we were talking at the beginning of the show about doing a reading, and people kind of, I'm not sure. And then, kind of getting the message as it gets doubled down. I think we do know the answer to our reading. As I told this person everything that she knew, I did know on some level that I wasn't clicking with those people, but I didn't really know that until I had another
Point of reference. Yeah.
another reference. And like, meeting Julie was very much like clicking with my ex-wife when I was in high school, and that's what you should be feeling from some relationship, whether it goes on for forever or not. Like, you should be feeling just yes.
That's right. Oh,
yes,
yeah. Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely. No, and that, what, it's important that you're saying that. I think, not that this is a relationship advice show or anything like that, but, that is a part of the spirituality. As you find spirituality in yourself, you wouldn't let yourself, be in a relationship where you're saying, I mean, I feel like, once you love yourself, and we've talked about that, and I was going to actually say, listening to you speak, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but Jesse, watching you're like this wise man filled with wisdom, but you've got all of these little lessons that you're still learning.
Absolutely, man.
Absolutely. And you know what? We all are. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a wise man.
Till the day you close your eyes for good.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly, Brian. We talked about that just yesterday, right? And it's a constant journey of learning and growing. you
Well,
know.
and I really try to sort of be active in that part of the conversation. As I see these things, I like to talk about them as I see them, uh, both for myself and the reality of it. Because I know it's coming from a place of rightness. That because this isn't just relationships. This is friendships. This is everything. It's like
Mhm.
I think so many of us, we know better than we like to think we know, and so often it really takes the being ready to take on the right answers when they come for us to start recognizing that a lot of the things that we deal with in our lives are the wrong answers, and they we're talking about energy exchange. That was a big thing for me, and just talking to a lot of people, just that's a lot of energy exchange for me.
Mhm.
I started to realize that that was too much. I really just like wanted to be dealing with a relatively small group of people. For me, it was harder for me to just be having open-ended conversations because I was single, or whatever. Like
Mhm.
and anybody could reach out to me at any moment, and like I had all of these sort of energetic strings,
Mhm.
and that that honestly didn't really appeal to me the way I thought maybe it would as a child or something, you
Right.
know. But until
Well, I think
you,
that's also that changes moment to moment. I think, I
It
think,
does.
it's that's one of the things outside of intention and energy exchange is the whole idea of the moment, and the moment just being the only thing that exists, and obviously we've talked about these kinds of philosophies and we all kind of agree on that. But I guess for me, in my brain, I've been trying to visualize some of these things, and that's, I guess, what we do as visual artists. um and so I've been seeing the concept of time, as a line. Everybody knows what a timeline is, right? Oh, I gotta face my camera, and it's like, it goes along a line, right? So if you were to take that line and turn it this way and face it towards the camera, now all of those events that happen a long time are happening all at the same moment, right? From the perspective of the camera. So that whole concept of existence
Time
is,
is not linear.
yeah, exactly, is what we've been exploring, in our conversations. And
well, though I think that different people are different, and I think for you, Michael, you, I think, maybe would have less problems in the crowd than I do at a comic convention. I tend to operate a certain way because I'm not super comfortable in there.
Mhm.
Similarly, I think for me, learning about myself as somebody, in the world dating, I think I kind of want to be a bit more insulated with my energy
Mhm.
through learning what I prefer. So, and I think everybody kind of has to do that. And that's really on a lot of levels, getting married when I was in high school just really stifled me,
Mhm.
in terms of me being able to develop as a person. Because I immediately, I'm the sort of person who gravitates towards making sure that fundamentally the other person is really happy, and a little bit less so about like me. Like I'll be like, well, I can't do that because that would fundamentally make them not really that happy. So I start changing how I behave, and I didn't do any of the things that I wanted to do. I didn't go on the road and go on tour and make music, and I didn't go have sex with every woman on the planet, which is what I wanted to do when I was a teenager. And not that I had to do that on any level, but I didn't really like date a lot. I didn't do any sort of experimenting. I just wanted to learn about sex and become very good at it. I want to be good at this thing. I like it. And, and and I didn't do those things. So on the really juvenile part of my person, I stifled that guy and I went, nah. So to learn and be able to sort of have the possibility that I could date, anybody or whatever, and talk to some people, really just to get to learn about some people and learn about myself in the process, was really important for me. And I think that's probably really important for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been put in a similar position to me where they didn't really do that for themselves, and therefore they've got some fundamental hangups about what they feel and what they want, and really coming to grips with what I wanted was like a huge for me. Like I realized I didn't even ask myself, what do you want? So like,
Yeah, I
like,
remember that conversation. Yeah.
yeah, and to a certain degree, like when Julie came around, I was only able to recognize that she was what I wanted because I had a list now. And it wasn't like some stupid superficial list.
I'm glad we could provide some therapy for you, Jeff.
Yeah, but there was some sort of idea about what I wanted, and honestly, I'll tell you really what Julie had, which was like just like the big nail for me, that none of these other people that I was talking to really had quite so much, was just an intuitive knowing about what she wanted and the thing. Like, she just like when I was recognizing the thing was good, she was recognizing the thing was good at that same moment.
Right.
And I'm just so used to sort of like, having like a thought and like having to wait for the other person to sort of realize, like I'll be like, yeah,
synchronicity,
cool.
man, synchronicity, frequency,
Yes.
right, Brian? We're talking about
it was just really,
it's
it was
everything we talk about.
synchronized.
It's everything we
Exactly.
talk about.
That's exactly
it's
it.
Perspective, how we got to look at things. We just need
Yeah.
to realize that. And I think it's really unfortunate that we are so conditioned away from the true nature of being. I mean, it sounds odd to hear myself saying these things.
Yeah.
but I mean, when I look at a lot of the people that I was talking about who I see struggling with things that I find, I'm like, but it's so simple. Why are you struggling with that? It's really conditioning. And this is a part of, for me, and I've had this discussion with you, Jesse, what gives me peace and the ability to be patient with people is to understand, like it's not their fault. This isn't just, advertising and media in the recent years. This is centuries. This is ages and ages of conditioning, people.
Oh yeah, it's a web. I literally, like, when I've had different some of my more visceral experiences working with ayahuasca, she showed it to me as this beautiful braid. She was sort of demonstrating this sort of spiritual braid that was looking over us at all times. That there was a physical something, but above and beyond us was this energetic something that was going, oh, I love that. I love them. I want to get down there. I don't want to be a part of it. And then they would come down and they would add to it. And now all this energy of this flowing energy that kept on coming down to love the next one and love the next one and love the next one. It was creating this web of all of the decisions we made. And a lot of them were not the best decisions. A lot of them aren't great.
Yeah, but those are the ones you learn the most from.
They're the ones you learn the most from. And they are the ones that very specifically, we are still here to unravel. We made this basket, we wove this together because we loved each other, and we kept on coming down and continuing it on because it came from this foundational love, and all of it is just love, 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 love that keeps it going. And it has gotten to an unwieldy place, but we're here because we ultimately we love it, and it's going to be accepting and honoring some of these terrible places we've gotten ourselves to, that we're going to be able to start to unravel and find the new way forward. And that, I believe, is really the heart of this show. Is, if it had another name, it would be A New Way Forward. Love is law. Let's try to communicate more lovingly than we have been.
Amen.
Yeah. And I think all three of us do a great job of it, and I love you both.
Oh man, bromance, awesome.
No, but and actually, also, I actually was thinking earlier, I did want to shout out to our audience, who are an amazing group of people who are always there, just listening to us ramble on about life and philosophy, and in a sense, we're all learning about ourselves, right, through the conversations and growing and exchanging our energy. That was really the idea of the name of this week's topic. And I thought of all of you guys. So Renee and Johnny and Angela and Taylor and Timmy and I think Mikey and Johnny and Joey and
We have so many wonderful people, and we're going to be making a big change. Hopefully next week, we're going to be taking our show over to Twitch. It's still going to end up being on YouTube eventually, whether it's through a later airing. But we are going to be doing it based out of there, and we'll get everybody the links at the time. We're hoping that you guys will all come along with us for the ride. But we've got
the cause.
Yeah, we've hooked up with a great a cause that I've worked with before, which is Rock Against MS, and they're doing just something really awesome. Basically came up because of COVID, where they took their some of the skills that they were sitting on and some of the opportunities that they saw lying about with Twitch, and they've begun backing and supporting and promoting these Twitch stars and taking a percentage of what they're making so that they can generate consistent revenue for their charity, Rock Against MS, for multiple sclerosis. Nancy, who is the head of the church, she has MS herself, and this has been something within the rock and roll community for a while. So I was friendly with Nancy, and her and I were talking about some sort of spiritual something, and I just happened to send her a link to the show. And when she saw the show, she just said, "Oh my God, I love this. This is totally what what I'd love to be supporting."
We'll have her on and we'll talk to her, and
exactly. But she really just wanted to, she's doing this stuff on Twitch, and she was like, "This is what I'd like to be putting my money into promoting, something about spirituality and communication and healing." And so we'll definitely have Nancy on, but she is gonna be backing up not just this show, but the suite of shows that me and Michael have been working on. Me and my buddy Tori Ireland Mel are coming back with one of my other best friends, Aaron Sparrow, to do Coolest Alive, which is a geek culture show, a pop culture show. I mean, from Lord of the Rings and comic books and the films and stuff. But we're going to be on the cusp, everything that's going on week to week, and having a lot of laughs. On the cusp.
On the cusp.
On the cusp.
That's where we can find you. If
on the cusp
we're looking
of the
for
information.
You, if you're looking for Jesse, go to the cusp.
Go to the corner cusp.
That's where he is.
This is the curse of a great vocabulary. And then on hopefully it'll be Tuesdays every week we'll be doing Coolest Alive, and Wednesdays we'll be doing Across the Universe with my buddy James McDaniel, which is going to be the real world equivalents of all the geek culture science fiction shit that I love, talking about ancient aliens and aliens right freaking now. I'm going to spend the first couple episodes, I think, talking about all the damn reports that the government keeps unleashing upon the public, and nobody's paying any attention. They've admitted to tons of stuff. I mean, the conversation's over. It's not conspiracy anymore. It's fact. And I want to talk about this shit and sprinkle some Bigfoot in there and some Mandela effect and some things like that. So, these three shows are basically the equivalents of everything that I give a shit about. The really fantastic things that people think about, the really fantastic things that are actually happening in our world, and higher levels of communication and spirituality and interaction amongst the populace. This is where my brain is throughout my week anyway. It's going to be so wonderful to just be having an ongoing conversation with the public about all my favorite stuff. So I'm really, really excited. We'll let you know what goes on as we make our shift over to Twitch starting next week, I think, for Love as Law, and then I'll be rolling out some other shows thereafter.
Awesome. So
Michael is going to be producing all of them.
As you were talking, all I'm thinking in my head is first of all, Jesse, let me just say how wonderful this is, because this is exactly what I meant when we first started hanging out. And I said, you just got to get in front of a fucking microphone and be out there, because working with you and just watching you and sitting there, Casey Kasem comes to mind. I'm just like somebody who is so, you just listen to, and you could just turn the radio on and just, you feel like you're at home. It's
welcome to Across the Universe,
right?
But really, I guess that's interesting, and I want to tie it into our whole spirituality thing, and I want to talk about the whole concept of channeling in general, because I'm like, oh man, it's like you're channeling Casey Kasem. And you were talking about it actually earlier, Brian, also.
Hey, Scoob.
And that is, you know, when I remember quite a few years ago being introduced to the idea of somebody who is channeling. What do you got there? Archangel Michael. Love that. I love Archangel Michael. I was
Exactly.
I was introduced to a channeler, and this person's like, "Oh, check out this person." And I tuned in, and I saw somebody who, to me, at the time, at that moment in my life, I was like, "What is this wacko shit?" Because this guy was talking about the Galactic Council and how, you know, they're talking to him and this and that, and I was just like, it was so odd to me. And then a few years later, I was working with a spiritual group of people, and they were having a channeler come to the meeting. Her name is Sarah, and actually we'll have her on as a guest. And she channels this consciousness called Amana. It's like a group consciousness. It's not a single entity. And I was like, okay, let me see what this is all about. And I went to her YouTube and I put on her video, and I had an emotional response. I watched her do her channeling, and she speaks light language, and had an emotional response to it. I was like, whoa, that's odd. And so I was like, I got to go see this woman. And I went to her appearance, and she did her channeling, and I had an emotional response again to her. And so I went up to her at the end, and I was like, I don't know anything about this, but I'm really intrigued. You know, do you do one-on-one sessions? And the way that I work a lot of times is, especially in the past, is barter. So I was like, you need any headshots? You need a website? What do you need? You know, and turned out she needed a website. So we worked together, and it opened up the idea of channeling in such a new perspective to me. It was just so genuine and so real, and I couldn't deny what was happening. Since then, I've been exposed to other people, and it's quite a few people who have channeled. And Brian, you may have experienced this as well. I'm imagining you probably have. People that we know, like George Harrison and John Lennon, have been channeled through other people. And as far out as it may sound, I mean, I have witnessed things where there's a person who has no musical knowledge. Suddenly, George Harrison is speaking to them. They write a song that they've never picked up the guitar before, and it sounds like a George Harrison song. And you're just like, you just don't understand what the heck is going on. So I don't know what made me start talking about this. I guess the idea that channeling is energy, and we are energy. And I feel
exactly
like
right.
That's what this is. It's that same energy that was inhabiting John Lennon or George Harrison or whoever is still existing in the universe, and it's just communicating with these other energies, which happen to be living people, and they're picking up these frequencies, and they're able to express them through creativity or whatever it is, and it's all energy. That's just, you know, you've talked about it, Brian. I love the way you say it. It's just the big ocean of energy. You know,
it is. The whole universe is that. There's every single, if you break it down to its simplest form, everything is energy.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and if it looks like it's solid to us in this perspective, you know, the truth of the matter is it just goes down further and further and becomes more part and out bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's all just one big energy goop that's expressed in different forms.
Little flashes,
you know?
little flashes.
What's
Yeah.
the saying? It's speak of the devil and the devil appears.
Yeah.
Speak of anything and
That's correct.
anything may
That's
appear.
right. That's
Think of anything and it may appear.
Yeah.
This is the world we're living in. You know, that saying is switching it to the devil. It's basically making your thoughts evil. Isn't that all? Isn't that great? Isn't that a great saying we've created there to teach us to be afraid of our damn thoughts? Think of anything and it will appear. You know, and I know it's, you go, well, I just thought of $1 million and it's not here yet. Well, that's because you've got a whole bunch of energy that's working against that, you know, $1 million. And you got to, where is your
simple,
momentum?
it's not simple, right?
Yeah,
It's simple, but
well, Gandhi said that best. It's what you think you become. And anything you focus your energy on and your intent and you pour enough of your personal juice in, absolutely manifests.
Yeah.
Absolutely does.
Yeah. And actually, just a quick story on that. And this is, again, I guess it's part of self-love and awareness and all of these things. So in 2011, and I don't know if we've shown it here, we may have. In 2011, I came up with this idea in my head. 2012 was upon us. There was all of these theories that the world was going to end in 2012. And one day I was like, well, what's going to happen to the Swimsuit Illustrated calendar? And so I came up with this idea called Women of Armageddon, which was basically as if the world would have ended and they still would have needed to produce these calendars. So it was like Mad Max meets Victoria's Secret.
It's awesome, by the way.
And calendar. Thank you very much. But it was just a concept. And the girl I was dating at the time, Janine, was a makeup artist. And this is such a great story because she was actually a makeup artist working at the makeup counter at the mall and she hated her job. So she ended up being able to quit her job and she's now a full makeup artist for like Hollywood. But anyway, regardless, she was like, oh, this is a great idea. Why don't we do it? And it was like November of 2011. And she knew a bunch of girls who were actresses in the haunted house kind of industry that would be interested. And she called them up and they were totally interested. Their boyfriends were totally interested in building the props. And all of this collective energy came together and brought it to life in front of my eyes. It was amazing to watch until whatever, it took maybe a month, or we got it out at the end of the year, right before 2012. I got the box and I opened it up and I held the calendar in my hand. And here's the point of the whole story. Your whole life, you're told these abstract things. You can do anything that you set your mind to. And it's so abstract until you actually hold it in your hand. And when you hold it in your hand, and I held this calendar in my hand, I was like, I came up with an idea. I set my mind to it and I did it. And here it is.
That's joyous.
It was such an amazing transformational moment in my life because, man, that saying is so abstract until you experience it, and that's
it. That's everything. Talking about it is great. You get information, but until you actually do it, like, channeling all of these abstract concepts are just stories until you actually experience it yourself.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like worth saying, the other day, well, my new girlfriend, Julie, was very, very intuitive. I think she's probably an indigo child. She's, wouldn't call herself particularly spiritual, but she's always pulling out things that I think are very, very, very wise. And she said, I really think that we all agree a lot more than we realize that we do, and we're just not good at talking about it. And I've always felt the same way, in large part. But she really inspired a conversation with me and my friend Aaron. Now, Aaron is basically like a biblical scholar. Aaron Sparrow and I are friends through comic books. He was an editor for all the Disney stuff and the Muppets things that I did when I was working at Boom Studios. Aaron was my editor, and that's how he and I became friends. And me and Aaron bonded much more strongly over toys. We're both big toy guys, and really that was like the foundations of our relationship. But then came to be philosophy buddies because he was not a Bible thumper or anything like that. He's somebody who's well read. He's read many Bibles and has a much more well-rounded understanding than I think most people do. But a fairly traditional sort of look at spirituality, at spiritual thought, a textbook kind of perspective. So he had said to me more recently that some of the things that you say, because he and I were talking about how we never disagree, and he was just like, well, some of the things that you say, like, about spirituality or whatever, like, I don't necessarily really agree with some of them, but but I understand your perspective and where it comes from, and I know that it leads you to very wise other thoughts. So even if I don't understand why what you're believing or really,
He respects the way you lead your life through those philosophies. Yeah.
so after Julie said, I think we all agree, I sat down with Aaron and I said, man, you said that thing the other day. I'm like, I really feel like we actually agree. And if I spoke about some of the things that I think you're getting hung up on, which was really the energy conversation, how I was sort of processing the energy, I said, I think that you might come away thinking that me and you actually do agree, because I really do believe that there is precedent in the Bible for everything that I'm saying. And if I say it to you in a different way, you're going to go, oh,
Sure.
yeah. And sure enough, I kind of rearranged the conversation. And basically what I told him was, I said, everything's energy, all these energy fields. I said, so my journey, because I was like hearing voices, I got told that I had all these lights in my aura, and my babies were looking at the lights above my head and laughing when they were infants, Parker, when she was really little. It was crazy. So it was this chain of events where I'm being told that I've got, energy in my field, and it's trying to communicate with me, and I'm hearing voices. So I went through like a really long, slow process, because I was an atheist and I was very much questioning this thing. But it began with essentially talking to my grandmother and getting like a hold of her energy, and then talking to Chris after I had a Kundalini awakening from basically a 2 days worth of meditating, when I finally was able to break through this thing, because I had a lot of injuries in my body, and the Kundalini energy, if you ever read about this, it didn't want to move through my body because I had so much dense energy from getting hit by the car and not healing that energy. And at the time, I hadn't done a lot of spiritual work. But at the end of this Kundalini awakening, I got connected to Chris, who I felt was there very viscerally in this visceral moment. I think I've told the story before. After I was talking to Chris and Grandma for a while, the next step was talking about, I always respected the Native Americans. The Native Americans would talk about sort of energy, larger energy that was governing all the birds, let's say, or like something that was covering a larger thing, the spirit of the mountains, the spirit of the rock, and I had come to understand through studying sort of elemental things that there was all of this energy that was just replicated over and over and over and over and over again, and essentially there was one representative of that energy for once and for all time, because that energy was ringing out the same for all of it. And I was speaking to larger energy fields, and that was something that I understood and believed was true. But eventually, I realized that God was just the overall governing field of everything in its totality, the same way I was looking at all these smaller fields. And I literally, on that day, I went, God? And
Yeah.
felt like this like crazy sort of, yes, hello.
That's a great realization, isn't it?
It was great.
I just pictured the word God with a big question mark. God?
And but it was like I asked the question, and then they went, yep. And so, and for I said a few other things to Aaron about how these fields, how I was understanding what these fields were, what these things were as ideas that I was, trying to connect to. And by the time it was done, he was spouting a bunch of different Bible verses, and he was going and connecting all these dots, because the conversation way I had put it to him before, he'd always just heard me talking about maybe talking to spirits or whatever. And he was just kind of like, I don't know what the hell Jesse's talking about. I don't really believe in this at all. And then I was like, well, here, look, this is the genesis of how I got to this place, and this was how I connected these dots, and then, and from that place, he went, well, that makes total sense to me. You're not just a crazy person talking to air now. You were slowly
That's
going
great.
about
That's
trying
amazing.
to
Yeah.
find your way to the things that you knew were solid on some place, and that literally led you to God, which I totally believe and understand God. And so by the end of that conversation, he and I were, it was very much like, oh, look, we're way more on the same page than he even thought.
That's
Which
wonderful.
I kind of knew and felt, but obviously I'd been talking about things in a way that was a little bit dense for him to be able to, figure out. So you frame something in the right perspective
You-
for somebody, and it changes their thing. You're having a conversation about energy. It can sound very esoteric and sort of ridiculous, but
yeah.
the people who do this, who aren't assholes, we do, we take it very seriously. The people who I respect and I admire, who are on YouTube and tarot readers and things, like they take it damn serious. Like
It's a way of life.
it is, it really
Exactly.
understanding and connecting these things and getting their rituals right, and getting because it's just about connecting to the energy so that you can
Yeah.
feel it
And I
and
feel like the conversations are they just kind of reinforce those beliefs. It's like you're talking about those beliefs just to reinforce them and just be like, this is what I believe, this is how it is, and whatever. So I just wanted to, I want to take a segue. I want to get on a segue.
segue.
Yeah. Have you guys heard of Dr. Zog?
No, I don't know Dr. Zog.
You don't know Dr. Zog? Dr. Z, I think they call him. He's this guy.
Isn't he in the Superman movie?
You know what?
I know Zod.
That's Zod, right? That's Zod.
I knew I liked you, Brian.
I watched this video, and I kind of, I don't really want to play it just because we have a good conversation going, but I'm just gonna actually share my screen for a second just so you can see who he is, and who the video is, and I will put up the URL. So he has this video, this theory of reality will melt your mind. And he talks about,
I love when my mind is melted.
yeah, he just talks about reality in such a way and language in such a way. It's the reason that I thought about it is because it's similar to what you're talking about, how we take language. He started talking about it like icons on a desktop, like we see a water bottle with water and we know what that is, and that's represent that with an icon on the desktop, and somebody else sees that icon and they know what that is, and this kind of thing. But some people perceptions are different. He just started talking about you got to watch this video. I can't even put it into words. But what's the URL here? I just guess search Dr. Zog. But he was kind of radical when in the middle of the pandemic, he was giving a lot of medical advice and talking about a lot of things that were very controversial. So
it's so unfortunate that the super interesting and groundbreaking things that are really being discovered viscerally right now, especially within the plant medicine community, and so many scientists are getting on board and studying things. This conversation has been tabled right now in the name of COVID, and it is very disappointing to me,
right,
as somebody who really believes in alternative medicine.
Saved my life.
And mine as well. And I'm still saving my life with alternative medicine right now. And I've had thoughts before to go around doing a tour of places around the country where we basically make a day where all of the local alternative medicine, the chiropractor, the acupuncturist, the Reiki master, the
herbalist,
osteopath, the herbalist, the hermeticist. There are so many people that qigong is there are practicing doctors who are great do energy work. The energy body is the most important of the bodies, because I say this all the time. What came first, the chicken or the egg? It's a false question there. It's a trick. The answer is the idea for both. That's what comes first. Idea comes before form. So if idea comes before form, what is the most important thing that is guarding your life? It's the energy field that your body has been projected into. And literally, there's a wonderful book that I highly recommend to everybody. It was one of the books that woke up my entire family, the Snyder family. There's two of them. One was called Many Lives, Many Masters, which will really wake you up to the.
I got a reading with him.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did a regression with him.
Wow.
So cool.
It was a trip.
He's a hypnotherapist who works with kids, and the stories from these kids will convince you. This is not some doctor putting stupidity into people's heads. You really need to listen to his story. It will wake you up as far as reincarnation is concerned. And then the other book, which is the one that is in relation to this, is called The Field. And I've talked about it before a little bit, but The Field, a lot of science within the book to really back up what is being explained. But when your fetus is forming, your fetus forms in a field. When your body is growing in your life and you're turning into a teenager, the freaking blueprints for you as the teenager, as the older person, and the older person, it exists in the field. You are literally growing into your field. That is what the science is saying. We have looked at chickens and all these other different animals growing into the field. The existence of you as a person, as a being, it exists in the field. The information is already there. And then we, with our minds, grow into what we think we're going to be in so many fashions. But the energy, the idea, is the most important thing. And to be treating our physical bodies all the time like, oh man, my physical body hurts. This is a fool's journey. The physical body is just the thing that is the canary in the coal mine. It's telling you that there's something wrong with your field.
The canary in the coal mine. I like that.
You have some damage to your field. You have to do some energy work. And the energy work is usually very visceral. It's usually practical things about how you're feeling about the world, how you're interacting with the world, how you've been interacting with the world in previous lives, the patterning that you've gotten yourself into. This patterning has created a distortion. Now, this distortion is causing problems within your energy field. That energy field distortion is causing problems within your physical body. Your cells aren't acting right anymore. They're getting crazy because the freaking foundational information that they're using to keep you healthy and happy and good is no longer present. It's not there like that anymore. It's being fucked up. And if you don't address this at an energetic level, a deep energetic level, doesn't matter what you cut out of your body, the energy that is there, that is a problem, is going.
That's exactly right.
Dude, I forgot I'm even on the show with you. You're so passionate right now, and so like, and not even just the passion, but like you're so right on. What you're saying is so it's so important that I forgot I'm even on the show. I'm watching you preach. It's awesome. It's awesome.
But we need people to come into this real practical understanding of themselves and what they are, because it's a tragedy to be thinking that you're doing anything to help yourself when really you're just creating an infinite loop that's not addressing the root, the foundation of your problem. I want to live in a world where everybody is saved, where everybody is helped, where we all heal, where we all make it. I'm not rooting for one side or the other. I'm not rooting for some of the people and not the others. I want us all to see the merit of Captain America and grab a shield and live for an ideal and stand for truth and justice. I want everybody to be able to get to that great place where they can heal themselves. And we are doing a real egotistical disservice to ourselves with our very practical, this hurts, stop that from hurting. This is bothering me, stop that from bothering me. It's never going to get us where we truly want to go. And I think at this point, we've seen enough of our relatives and our family members die from these things because it kept coming back and they couldn't properly address it. People get over the cancer, they get over the emotional problem. They get over the thing that was causing the cancer, that was causing their body to eat itself.
And it's possible people do that.
It is. People do.
And
people go, oh, well, that's a miraculous thing. This is that one person. No, it's miraculous because the thing that caused their cancer is probably slightly different than the thing that caused your cancer, but it's probably within the wheelhouse of each other. And addressing those issues directly, the energy that is in your field is the thing that's really going to bring you to wholeness.
I mean, truly, energy, you get really mad about something and you just start circle thinking about it in the emotional band, in the second band of your aura. You build little gooks that attach in there, and if those don't get cleaned out, like with a good grounding and other ways to do that, and you keep thinking about that, you keep feeding that, and that progresses down through your second band into your first band, and you're sick. And it finds the weakest link in the body to attach itself to and cause difficulty. And like people treat the body and they're cutting things out and doing all this stuff, but that emotional set point is still there. And unless that gets addressed, you're never going to heal completely.
Yeah, Brian, and you're reminding me of something that's, really important too, is like we develop a numbness to these things because once they're seeded, it's just one more thing that confirms the negative thing, one more thing confirming the negative thing, one more thing. And we literally forget that we made a choice a long time ago to make this a problem, to make it a negative thing that's forming in our band. And we don't know how many cards we've been throwing at that pile. And before
That's
we
exactly
know it,
right.
we got the whole deck over there. We're like, people suck. And, we're about to have a stroke or something because we can't get out of our own way. Every single time we go out to a restaurant, people suck. People suck. And people are sucking. We're freaking sucking the people that suck and the suckiness right out of them. And we're getting it straight from their face to our face. And we're like, yeah.
Oh my God.
And the more you think that, the suckier the people are going to be that show up in front of you.
Yeah.
They're getting suckier.
It's so funny because we all agree on that. And I definitely remember the moments that I realized that it was my responsibility, that I believed. I was like, 95% of the people that you meet have no clue. They're morons. And I truly believe that. And I'm not going to say either way whether it's right or wrong, but that's what I was bringing into my existence for sure. 95% of the people I was meeting were morons, until I stopped believing that.
Yeah, so man. It's so true. And I've said this before, but I mean, it really is such a good thing to just always add to the conversation. I changed my entire interaction with the human race when I decided to believe that when I went out into the world, I was always getting the best from everybody, and I was always bringing out the best in them. And it didn't matter if they were a Nazi or, just a complete schmuck. I was going to pull out the 0.0001% of greatness that was there, and that was who I was going to meet, and that was who I was going to interact with, and I wasn't going to have bad experiences with anybody ever again. And it seeped into my interactions with police officers, which generally as a child I had shitty interactions with police officers because I had long hair and I get stopped and stuff. But again, me projecting these things to a certain degree. So, but it even helped that because I just across the board I said, nope, I'm always getting the best out of everybody, and that's it. That's all you got to do. I'm always getting the best out of everybody. And honestly, I always get the best out of everybody. It's been that simple. It wasn't like that for forever, but I did make a choice, and it has been like that.
I think that's a great segue into wrapping up, like final thoughts. And those are kind of my final thoughts, are exactly that. Everything we've been speaking about, like once you realize how responsible you are for your existence and how you can shape it and how you can control it and how you can control the people that come into your field. Once you realize that stuff, it starts to really be powerful and happiness happens, I mean, you start to really, you're able to really be happy. I mean, you guys both know me. I'm a happy guy. Why would I put any energy into not being happy? So those are my final thoughts. Put your energy into being happy. I feel like I sucked all the energy out of the room with that all of a sudden.
What are your final thoughts, Brian?
I just Michael and I talked about this a little yesterday. One of the things that I think would be really helpful, especially in this time, is for everyone to understand everybody's in a different place in the journey. And the only person, if you start with yourself and do the work on yourself that you're like projecting on to seeing on other people, then you start exuding a different kind of energy, and you really do start exuding love, and you start exuding those kinds of things. And I think that's the real tool of change for the positive. I think when people get into their own sphere and really figure it out for themselves so that it makes sense for them and it works, and they're living with their joy and their love, then I think that's and everybody's exuding that, then it's a big, it's something that flows into change rather than violence. I don't think ever really achieved any real change.
Yeah, agreed. And I feel like I just got to say, like, just another something, just like for me of learning. And I mean, you see these things, but sometimes it's just the right circumstances that give you the perspective where you connect together.
True.
I was on some level trying to control my destiny. I joined a dating website for a minute, while I was in Lake Tahoe because I didn't know anybody up there. And, and I was feeling a little lonely, and I was just like, sort of like desperately on some level, kind of trying to make some friends and trying to be able to, distract myself a little bit and not feel like I was so by myself. When I finally made the decision to do away with that energy of like, this is like, one, I started to see it wasn't exactly right. Like, and I was like, you're forcing this. And because you're forcing this, it's like, it's a little bit diminishing returns here. And, and I went, all right, I'm not going to do that. And then, this girl, Julie, like I said, she just sort of kind of sprang up really immediately, sort of after I closed the door on these things. I mean, very much like
always how it happens.
Yeah, they say in feng shui, if you want a new piece of furniture, you get rid of the old piece of furniture.
Right.
The other piece is there. But if there's room, there's space for the thing, now all of a sudden the thing can come. And I mean, you talk about things being right. When I kissed Julie for the first time, it was spiritual. Like I've never had it happen to me before. I've been looking for a girl who I had like a spiritual connection with, and there it was. Like I literally, like, we were kissing for like 2 seconds, and then all of a sudden the two of us like connected to, and the energy, like this flow of energy, like the same way I would in meditation, where like my body would just be sort of moved like I'm a puppet or something. But the two of us, and all of a sudden we just started kissing really slowly, and this energy was just like
getting a little turned on, Jesse.
All in between us, like but I mean, but this is what I'm saying. Like when it's right, it's so right.
Of course, energetically.
You're gonna be amazed, and I mean with friendships as well, because it's made me think about my friendships that were right, and the sparks of friendships. Whether it was a Michael Zinn or Aaron Sparrow, the people who I've connected with. Like when it's right, and you do feel sparks, and there is that like, oh man, I got a new best friend, like you fucking feel that. It's either there or it's not. And I mean, and literally, like, and then similarly, we were laying down in a bed. I felt our auras connect. I was just like, what the hell is going on here? But
yay for energy. We say yay energy.
Well, but I mean, this is just what I'm saying though, because I mean, really, like, I just want to affirm, like, I put aside the control of the thing, and exactly what I was looking for just showed up right in my lap.
Yeah.
And I really just believe it's like this with everything across the board. And when you're doing it, you won't doubt that you've done it. And that's the lesson, because I've been trying to do it, wondering if you're wondering if you've done it, you're not doing it.
You hadn't done it.
It's reminding me of your ring dance story, but
you'll know it. You know when you know it.
You'll know when you know it. And it may be that you do know it, and the you not knowing it is you just being unwilling to confirm your This isn't right.
Right.
And if you're keeping that furniture in the living room, whether it be a relationship or friendships, what you're doing with your time or whatever else, it's going to be a thing. But if your time's open and you know that you want to connect with some people and have some friends, like all of a sudden the right thing's going to happen. Me and Giancarlo become friends. Giancarlo was commenting earlier. He and I working on music, again, when it was right, it was right. I just sent out a nice message that felt right to me. That was just me being honest. I felt urged to do that. Just send out a message on Facebook to your friends that says, you're lonely, as opposed to this, like putting yourself out there in all these weird ways to meet strangers. You have friends, like see what happens when you just, talk to your
Call
friends.
on your friends.
Yeah. And that I listened to the advice when it came into me. I capitalized on that, and it literally like lightning, like I literally had to explain to a girl who I had ended things with that I'm like, this happened after you, like immediately after you.
Shit happens. No,
happens. Like this just happened. But I mean, but that's it. Like when it's right, it's right. You just have to create the space for the rightness to come into your life by thinking that things like that are possible, by thinking that it's possible to meet people on the street and they're nice. Once you open yourself to the idea that everybody's not idiots, then they won't be.
That's it. Exactly. No, that's absolutely right. And so thank you everybody for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Brian. Thank you,
Brian.
Much.
Enjoyed you guys very much. I'm really happy for the connection. It's great.
Yeah, you totally add a lot to the conversation. I love having you on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much, and we will let you know what goes on next week as we move ourselves over to Twitch, and you guys are just our audience that we've been cultivating over here, and from here I'm going to be letting the promotional gods of Rock Against MS do all of our work, but I promise I will get everybody onto the new game plan, and then we'll just be going. And me and Michael are already working on the intros to our new shows and stuff. We just showed some stuff to James McDaniel. He was digging it, so I'm really excited to have just a whole bunch of great conversations, and for me and Michael to be producing content as we swore we would just a couple of years ago. High five. Now we are so happy we will do this and some joy.
Right.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, our audience. Thank you, Michael. Love you all. We will see you next week.
Peace.
And next week at the same time.